Hey, it's Paul. So sometimes when I have a new male client whom I suspect has some childhood issues, I'll ask him this question. Have you ever been at the movies and the scene comes up? A father tells his son, I love you, son, or I'm proud of you. And all of a sudden these tears, uncontrollable tears, well up. Well, if I'm asking the question, I already know the answer. And typically it's followed with, why does this happen? I don't like this. Paul, make it stop. And I usually say something like, dude, it's your inner child. And this is going to keep happening until you do five things. You need to acknowledge that you have an inner child. You need to listen to him. You need to learn from him. You need to remember things with him. And then you need to reparent him. First of all, for all men in particular, the whole notion of an inner child is just so woo-woo, crunchy granola, new age, you name it. They don't like it. We men, we're prone to preemptively reject such ideas. Why? Because real men are proud men. We take responsibility, we take charge. We don't make excuses for missing things. We don't blame other things, other people for dropping the ball. And we hate it when our peers do the same thing. We find that really weak. So the notion of going back in time, looking at our childhood, and maybe blaming our parents for everything, that's just unacceptable. And clients will say things like, well, that was then, this is now. Can't I just move on? That was the past. I don't want to blame my parents. I know they tried the best they could. I just don't want to dredge it up. Oh, and by the way, it's uncomfortable. I would say this. The fact that you have this overwhelming emotional response is proof that you have some unresolved childhood issues. I should explain who or what is an inner child. And pardon me in advance if this is obvious to some of you. This is something I've come up with over the last 30 years, and it's really sort of my interpretation. It's not out of any book. So when a child experiences trauma, abuse, abandonment, neglect, there's often an adult brain that is saying, hey, this kid can't handle this. This will ruin him. It'll destroy him. And so that adult brain will actually pull that memory away from that kid's consciousness and store it in memory out of their awareness. But to store it for years takes energy. So as that child grows, the adult brain is always checking in to see, hey, are they ready to handle these memories now? And for severe abuse, that check-in is usually in the form of flashbacks, night terrors, body memories. But lesser abuse also surfaces in the form of an event happens that's essentially too close to home. So when you find yourself responding out of proportion to a situation, maybe it's your inner child crying out, saying, hey, I don't like that. That reminds me of bad things. It's that younger you, the kid inside, responding in a kid-like way. So back at the movies, your inner child is crying. Why? Because he never got to hear the all-important I love you that this kid, you, always deserved, needed, but never got. Maybe this seems like an obvious connection, but if your memories are locked away, then you just have no idea. So maybe take this event at the movies as your cue that, hey, I've got some unfinished business. So back to these five things. First thing you got to do is acknowledge you have an inner child, and it's okay. It doesn't make you weak. In fact, for proud men who hate making excuses, blaming others, maybe blaming parents, it's a great way to say, hey, I'm going to adhere to these values, but I got to acknowledge, hey, I still got this little guy and I got to take care of him. Number two is listening to them, but without the adult in you minimizing feelings. Remember, this is from a child's brain. Number three is learning from them, recognizing that these events were horrible, but it was real for him. Number four is remember with them, and this is a frequent challenge for clients. There are some adults that can't or won't go there. I kind of liken it to sort of an old-fashioned steamer trunk, the big wood ones with the round tops and the metal bands. And inside this chest is all the bad things, the bad memories or horrible events, all the things that they remember clearly or have a suspicion about. It's all housed in this chest. And the client is terrified of opening the chest because too many feelings will come out and it will overwhelm them. So it's sort of like bats in the chest. So if they open up the chest, all these things are going to fly out, run around the therapy room, overwhelm the client, and maybe the client and the therapist can't get them all back into the chest and close it up by the end of the session. So the therapist rightfully thinks, well, I can't risk this. It's staying in the box. In fact, I'm going to put another chain and padlock on it. And when I see this, I actually try and use this example and say, look, what you and I are going to do is we're going to stand there together, open the box really quickly and grab one bat, close the box, work on the bat, and then when we're done, it goes right back in the box and we lock it up. And 5, most important, you need to re-nurture that child. For example, your kid's playing out front with his best friends. And all of a sudden there's this commotion. You run out there, all his friends are gone, and your kid's sitting there crying his brains out. What are you going to do? Are you going to say, hey, quit your crying, just go to your room? No, you'd never say that. No, you get down and kind of get near them, put your arm around him and say, it's okay, son, tell me what happened. You're not in trouble. And the kid's telling you, and you're like, instead of rationalizing as an adult, giving adult reasons, you say something like, oh my God, that must have been so hard for you. Wow, that was tough. I'm so sorry. All right, well, it's okay. It wasn't because you were a bad kid. You were a good kid, and I love you. And we'll get through this together. You know, the kid's sitting there crying, saying, okay, thanks, Dad. You see that? That's what you do with your inner child. You honor that child's voice who needed to be heard then and now. You tell them those things that happened to you were wrong. They were unfair and undeserved. And most importantly, they weren't because you were a bad kid. If you check out my last video here, I explain a little more about bad kids. So if you do these 5 things, you too can have more mastery over a painful childhood past. So this inner child concept came up in a therapy session this week, so I thought I'd share it with all of you. And that's the goal of this channel, Paul's Simple Psych, to take concepts learned in therapy sessions and share them with you in the hopes that it will help you in your journey moving forward. So if you like this video, you like this kind of content, please give the channel some love, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Peace.